So as I just said to the Attorney General before we went on the air, breaking news is always very exciting to us in the journalism business, and we have some big breaking news. The Massachusetts State Highest Court just threw out this ballot question that would have, as the Globe puts it, enacted the nation's strictest statewide rent control in Massachusetts, talking about how it would exempt, because it would exempt units operated in religious facilities. So tell me what you think about it.
We just got it.
Yeah, it just happened a few minutes ago.
Nearly
So
unanimous decision.
do you
frankly.
understand this any better than I do?
Well, we obviously, when we got the rent control initiative, we certified it. But we, of course, have to respect the court's decision, which ruled against us and said we got that wrong. And the piece that they focused on was the fact that the initiative relates to, part of it at least, relates to religion because it exempts housing used for religious purposes. And we went into the hearing understanding that, but we said to the court at the time, the initiative exempts a number of types of housing, including nonprofit housing, and the exemption for religious uses was a minor one within the broader petition. The court disagreed and said that even a minor reference to religion is not appropriate for a ballot initiative. And we were just reviewing this. Obviously, the decision just came out, and I think it was only the second time that the court has reviewed this standard, so it's not like it happens frequently. We were surprised, but of course, we will follow the court's ruling and move forward. And this ballot question will not move forward to the ballot.
I want to ask you two things about this, and I don't want to get lost in the weeds for people, but as someone who used to do ballot campaigns, Article 48, which allows for ballot questions, says you can't have a ballot question as anything that appropriates money or relates to religion. From reading, admittedly, just the Globe account of the decision, all that the ballot question did was affirm what the Constitution says. We can't have a ballot question that relates to religion and religious-owned property. So I know it was unanimous. Why is that a violation of anything?
Well,
it seems
based
to be
on our
a
quick reading,
reaffirmation of what the Constitution says. But go ahead.
so when we certified it, we thought we were obviously on right legal footing, but based on the decision which just came down from the SJC and our quick review and analysis of this, they determined that even exempting, even a minor exemption here, even if it's a minor issue as we described it, was enough to say that this relates to religion because it exempts housing used for religious purposes and thus it cannot proceed.
Okay, one last thing that is not a legal issue is you knew, I don't know from just reading if you were involved, that because of the ballot question, there was an effort with some developers and the proponents to just try to strike a compromise so this wouldn't go to the ballot, something less extreme. Were you involved in any of that at all?
No, I was only hearing about it either through advocates or folks in the legislature or others who were pushing for a compromise, so I have no idea what's going on with
I guess the follow-up question is, we all know, thanks to some brilliant Globe reporting last year, that the legislature is dominated by developers and lots of elected officials who have tons of property who obviously don't like rent control. Isn't it sort of incumbent on constitutional officers using bully pulpits to try to convince the legislature to stay at the table and try to strike? I mean, the polls show people want some form of rent control. Would you or the governor or others try to convince the legislature to continue cutting this deal even though the sword of the ballot question isn't hanging over their head?
That's what the voters should do. That's what advocates are already doing, right? You elect us to put us into positions to do our jobs. Folks obviously have real concerns about affordability in this state, as I do. I'm using the tools of my office that I have direct control over to rein in costs, including through our new housing affordability unit, through some zoning reforms, through the enforcement of MBTA communities, utility cost work, reducing costs. That's directly my purview. The work of the legislature is within their purview, but folks should, of course, demand, as they demand of me and my team, to address the issues they care about the most. I will tell you, obviously, we did not expect the SJC to come down just less than an hour ago, I think, to decertify our certification of the rent control ballot initiative. But we respect the court, as we always do, and we'll move forward in complying with it.
One last ballot question issue. To quote you to you, you just said a minute ago around the rent control thing.
To quote me to me.
Well, you said we got it wrong. You also got the summary on the income tax, the cut wrong, which led to that being struck. Do you take any accountability for the striking of that question and not allowing the voters to have an opportunity?
I always take responsibility. this was a record number of ballot initiatives we received in the office, in the history of the office. It was 47. We reviewed 47 ballot initiatives. We certified 44. 6 were challenged. 3 were successful in those challenges. 3 were not, including rent control, the stipend issue, and income tax. So now I see it as incumbent upon me and the team to go back and to ensure that we continue to improve our processes, our analysis. That being said, no one should expect us to get a perfect result. No organization could. But that being said, we take our jobs seriously and we hold ourselves accountable. And those 3 we got wrong, according to the court. We're going to follow the court's orders and move forward with the rest of the ballot initiatives.
But the statement from your office, I have to say, was hard to take for me. The response when the summary was determined to be to violate your constitutional obligation, quote, it's difficult to summarize succinctly. That's your job, is to summarize
I'm gonna
succinctly.
stress this because I think it's important. I have an incredible team of lawyers and staff. You know, I'm always celebrating them because they work really hard. They are passionate public servants who do their jobs of serving the public because they care deeply about people, they care deeply about the Commonwealth. They're doing it in the context of a federal administration that's working against us and fighting back to hold them accountable. And they also, of course, take their job seriously when it comes to the ballot initiatives. We had a record number of 47 in the history of the office. We reviewed our 47. We engaged with every stakeholder, the proponents and the opponents. And that's not even a process that every government follows, but we do because we want to hear all sides. And when we get it wrong, we say to all sides, we got it wrong. In the context of the income initiative, we said to the proponents and the opponents on both sides, at no point did they challenge that summary that we put out as a draft in over-communicating. The court said, you got it wrong. We said, we got it wrong. And respectfully, we'll now move forward and do better in improving our processes.
Do you think they wanted you to get it wrong because it would have helped their cause?
I can't speak for them.
Okay.
But what I will say is all the attorneys and the staff who worked on these issues take their job seriously, and anytime they get a result that's opposite of their analysis, they review it closely and always look for ways in which we can do better.
The number to call if you want to speak to the Attorney General is 877-301-8970. You can call or text that
Call
number.
us.
Call.
One last thing about this income tax cut. It was very popular. There was predictions that it would have passed, and then there was concern for labor unions and other people in the government that it would have decimated services in Massachusetts. So some people are very happy about this. But as the Commonwealth Beacon points out in a piece they wrote about this, that it's a big deal to me that what it says is misstates the petition's impact by incorrectly stating the rate cut would not impact taxes on long-term capital gains. And the question says exactly the opposite. You know, that's what's so...
It's a flawed
summary.
The summary.
It's a flawed summary.
Yeah.
The court pointed that out. We made a mistake.
Right.
We are now reviewing how we do better, and we will do better going forward.
But what I found so strange is
Yeah.
that as you point out, the proponents saw this too.
And they never pointed it out.
Well, it was good for them.
That's a question for the proponents.
It was good for the proponents.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they noticed it and didn't want to say anything. I don't know. I don't know, but you do have to wonder
I don't
that.
know. But I do want to stress, because I think when we are coming on the radio, I representing my team, we always want to over-communicate. So even whether it's our new assisted living regulations, where people have a different position or posture on how we review something or what we put out, we have an open door policy to say, give us your feedback. The same is true for our ballot questions, whether they're certified or not. We take that seriously, and we want to, of course, move forward, hopefully getting the result right. But in the context of a few of these, we did not, and we own that. And now we have to make adjustments going forward, including ballot initiatives that won't make it to the ballot.
Okay, we're going to, the phone lines are a little screwed up, but keep calling. They're going to be fixed. Oh, they're fixed. As we speak,
the number
we'll start
again is
taking calls in a second.
877-301-8970, 877-301-8970. Meanwhile, we have a couple of texts here. Connie and Natick text, any plans to reverse Eversource's new $34 a month fee for meter readers? Eversource installs smart readers, including at my daughter's house. Within a month, she developed, I cannot say this word.
I don't know what it is.
It's when you have a, you get sound, ear ringing. Thank you.
Tinnitus, is it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure what it is.
Tinnitus or
I don't know.
tinnitus. Or, anyway, and learn smart meters emit radiation and should not be installed outside a bedroom wall. She had to replace it with a regular meter, but will have to pay $30 a month, $34 a month for having it read. They never charged before, so why now?
Can Connie, this is so specific to, it sounds like Connie, her daughter, can she just stay on so we can follow up with her or leave her contact?
Text back. Connie, text back your number that we can reach you.
Yes.
Do we have any way to get the number? We have the number. Okay.
And we'll follow up.
We've got your number,
Yes.
and we'll give that to the
Okay.
Attorney General, and she can follow up.
I'm ballot obsessed today. Another ballot question that you're finally out of, and I'm sure you're thrilled we don't talk about it every month anymore. The audit question. After the SJC ruled, and this is the thing that passed 2 years ago, 72%, voted after the SJC ruled, you allowed the auditor to hire, was it called an independent counsel? Is that
SAG.
Independent.
Special.
Special, okay. And she's done that, Shannon Liss-Reardon from down the street. After that, I mean, you probably know as much about this as almost anybody except the auditor's office since you're involved for so long. The Speaker of the House writes a piece, I think in Commonwealth Beacon, saying what they did to be transparent and to comply with the audit needs solved the problem. And I think a day or two later, the Globe editorial wrote, "Who does the Speaker think he's fooling?" I'll read a quote. "The House bill contains a poison pill." This is incredible. "A provision that would bar any future possibility of judicial review should any state auditor ever be denied requested legislative records." Did you find what the House passed to be an adequate response to the voters' will expressed 2 Novembers ago?
So I'm going to reframe the question.
Sure.
The Speaker should be invited here to answer however he feels about his bill, his op-ed. He
No, I'm
has
asking
his
your
own
opinion
thoughts.
about it. Yeah, I got it.
We are now removed because this is now in the court, right? We agreed, and I supported, I say it all the time, question one, and that the legislature could be audited, but that there were constitutional limitations to that audit. The court has now said there were 4 areas and limited the scope of the audit, right, which is what we were looking for, that limitation, recognizing some constitutional limitations. And so that will play out. We are no longer in the middle of that. If that changes and the auditor comes back or the legislature comes back, then we will then, of course, be asked to participate at that stage. So we're not there yet. So now it's the auditor has her opinions, the Senate President, I'm sure, has hers, and then the Speaker has his, along with anyone else who serves in the legislature, because we know they're not always of the same opinion or mindset. So I'll leave it at that.
You're glad you don't serve in the legislature?
I love my job as Attorney General. And this is why I'm running again to be Attorney General, because we have real tools to do real work on behalf of real people, to have an impact that is direct and that is actually felt, to improve government delivery, but most importantly, to improve the outcomes for our people, and I take that seriously.
You know, to get back to this income tax thing one more time, because as I said, it was popular with voters. Stephen Newbury wants to know why you cannot pursue rewriting the summary so that it is on this year's ballot. It seems like we're circumventing democracy by putting it off for 2 years, something that by all accounts the people supported. I think I read why, but I don't remember why.
This is how the cycles work this way for other ballot initiatives too. The proponents will come back, go through the cycle again, and obviously we will learn from our mistakes and move forward. That being said, I will say this is why we over-communicate to both proponents and opponents, and even other stakeholders that care about this that may not be directly involved in a ballot initiative, because ultimately we want, say, the 47 that we received this year, we want to be able to bring that to the people as people are doing a lot of work to ensure they go through a robust process to make it happen. So we will continue to work on these issues, and we'll see what happens on the next cycle.
Tell us about this United Healthcare suit.
Oh, United Healthcare. I'm glad you asked. So really excited about this case, and I want to actually pull up numbers on this because my team, most folks don't know this, my team that works on this is our Medicaid fraud unit. and they are tasked with making sure that taxpayer dollars are protected, and not just protected, that Mass Health and other state agencies, the money that they put out into our system of healthcare to deliver healthcare services, that money is used according to rules and regulations, and most importantly, protected as stewards of these taxpayer dollars. And so we expect companies to act in good faith when they get taxpayer dollars for healthcare delivery. Our team sued United Healthcare after trying to work this out with them for knowingly defrauding Mass Health at the tune of over at least $100 million. And this was a multi-year investigation that found United did a few things. One was to misclassify some of their members. There are various levels that you can classify someone to receive certain health care. Misclassified certain members in order to receive and charge Mass Health more, even though that particular patient, for example, was not receiving more services because they didn't need it. The second is they failed to report overpayments to them. In addition to that, they actually claimed that certain members needed services they didn't actually receive. So there's a laundry list of allegations here. We see it as intentional practices by them to grow at all costs, which was an approach that even one of their executives acknowledged that they had. And so we're fighting to protect the Mass Health system and also delivery of healthcare services, and we've sued them for $100 million.
You know, to me, this sounds so egregious. This is a massive company that's all over the United States of America, knowingly, it seems, from this, stealing from taxpayers.
Absolutely. And as I said at the beginning, we understand that companies are given taxpayer dollars to deliver services, including, in the context here, elder care services, which we take very seriously. Every company has the obligation to work not only to steward those dollars, but to work in good faith and to deliver high quality services to our constituents. Here you have a company that knowingly defrauded Mass Health for close to $100 million in egregious ways that were absolutely intentional, and that's what we intend to prove. And so we have sued them after a multi-year investigation, and now we will pursue that case, and we'll keep the folks updated as it moves along.
A couple of follow-ups there, and by the way, I just want to say the phones are fine now, and thank you. And those of you on hold, we're going to get to you in 1 minute. I'm sorry.
877-301-8970.
You know, you used the word intentional when you were just talking to Marjorie a minute ago about what they did. If I went to a hospital and saw $1,000 lying on the desk, and I took the $1,000 and ran away, you or the DA in that county would prosecute me for a crime. If you believe, as you obviously do, that United Healthcare engage in intentional theft, and that may not be the term of art, but stealing money, why are none of their executives criminally charged, or at least those executives that are responsible for the intentional thievery, according to you, criminally charged for that act?
When I took over as Attorney General and sat down with my Medicaid fraud division, which is incredible at what they do, just in fiscal year 25 alone, I'm going to mention this because they work so hard in taking on fraud, they recovered nearly $140 million. They secured 21 convictions, indicted 27 people, and resolved 31 cases. And I remember saying to Toby at the time, who led the division, is now the head of my entire healthcare bureau, should some of these folks go to jail? It is not easy to, even if we are pursuing a case where we think there's intentional fraud happening and other ways of abusing elders, for example, it is not easy to prosecute these cases. It is also not easy to put folks in jail, either because the laws are not always on our side, so hence why we often work with our federal counterparts here on strengthening the laws to allow greater accountability. Also, you have a posture sometimes in some of our courts where judges will see someone who has no maybe prior criminal record and say, well, let's give them a different outcome, which we can't determine that, right? Not for a lack of pursuing certain charges. Or another factor that also has to be considered that isn't necessarily talked about publicly, you shut down some of these institutions that are defrauding Mass Health as we seek to recover those monies. They're still delivering services to patients that desperately need those services. You start to take off some of these companies offline in certain communities, you will literally have access deserts when it comes to elder care and certain type of care. So it has to be a robust conversation even with the administration. And I've talked to Health and Human Services about this, that how do we hold people accountable while at the same time not setting folks up, for example, where they will have no care whatsoever. So we're holding them accountable monetarily, we're holding them accountable restitution, we're holding them accountable in paying back the state what they owe, we're holding them accountable with compliance monitors, independent some compliance monitors that have been proven to work, to raise care. So it's not always black and white, but to your point, I had the same question, and so we pursue those who are the most egregious as aggressively as we can, but sometimes the law is not on our side to do that. Sometimes the courts are not on our side when it comes to how we handle these cases. And then there's a larger issue of, do we want patients to go without care? And that's not an easy
But the
answer.
patient without care thing, which I respect, obviously, your position,
Absolutely.
would not apply to the crook of all crooks in healthcare, Ralph De La Torre.
That's
and
ongoing.
other than the island, there's an investigation in your office?
I've said before, I can't say much about Stewart, but when I can, I will.
And there is an investigation. You just said it.
When I can, I will.
But you just said it. Is that true?
Ongoing.
Ongoing. Let's take some calls. Sorry with the screw up. Matt and JP, you're on with the Attorney General. Hi.
Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hello,
Hey,
Matt.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
I'm calling because I am a former fifth grade teacher at the Croft School in Jamaica Plain, and I understand you might not be able to say a lot, but I was curious if you could share anything about a potential investigation into the company or the founder of our school. As you may know, the school has filed for bankruptcy. The teachers are not getting 20% of the pay that we had already earned. And, there's a lot of parents and a lot of investors who are out of, my understanding is $12.5 million.
Thank you, Matt, and frankly, thank you for your service as a teacher. We have been following this closely. In the immediate, our office was pulled in, particularly my Children's Justice Unit, to support parents and to support folks who are trying to make sure that their children were able to continue and extend the school year and to finish their school year, to make sure they were at, we could support in other ways. And I know that some folks stepped up to offer resources to allow for that, and I think some were anonymous donors. That being said, we don't have a direct involvement just yet. And when I say yet, meaning I don't know, because we are still learning a lot more. But that being said, if you want to stay on, Matt, because we have had other outreach from other elected officials who cover this school and this district, please do. That would be helpful to us as we engage more folks with respect to the Croft School.
You know, we had two parents on from the Croft School, I don't know,
Yep.
a month ago, and they talked about not only the concern about the guy who was the head who allegedly engaged in this fraud or whatever the alleged crime is, but about the board of directors' involvement. We've done a number of segments on since Andris Nelson's was fired at the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and a lot of people have emailed us, texted us, including some people who work there, raising questions about the board's action. And you have a charities division which oversees nonprofits, specifically, I think, if I remember correctly, whether boards have appropriately carried out their fiduciary responsibilities. Are you looking into at all, or have you been requested to look into the board's behavior around the firing of Andris Nelson's?
Not that I'm aware of, no. And I would have to go back to see if we've received something specifically on that. In the context of the Croft School, we had folks reach out about, obviously, the money and where it went, board involvement, board concerns, et cetera. We're more limited than I think people think and know when it comes to our direct accountability of board members and board of directors. We handle a lot of the transactions and other things through our charities division, a lot of technical assistance, a lot of guidance, but not necessarily the tools that the public might expect to hold people accountable in certain ways for inaction or intentional action that would harm a nonprofit. That being said, why I asked Matt to stay on and others, because we've gotten outreach and we're in contact with even elected officials in the legislature about how something like this could happen, what could look like, where our tools could be most appropriately emphasized or our platform used, and then how might we improve just accountability in the nonprofit sector space when it comes to issues like this.
Within the jurisdiction that you do have, without us giving people a headache, who is able to reach out to your office, whether it's about the Croft School or the Boston Symphony Orchestra or any other nonprofit, who has, I don't know if standing's the right word in this kind of, who has,
Anyone can reach out to us.
anybody could say,
Anyone
we think the board of the Croft School has,
Anyone can
and
reach
you
out.
would, your
Anyone
unit
can
would look
absolutely,
into it. Okay.
and they can go online. They can call us, and this is what happened in the Croft School context. Some of it came through local elected officials, state representatives,
I
counselors,
see. Okay.
but folks also reached out directly. And then there were folks in my office that had direct connection to that school because their children attended. So we got complaints that way too. And we review all complaints and take them very seriously. And we will have a response, sometimes a response that not everyone will love, where we can actually do something. And if we can't, we'll see if there's some agency or something else that can happen to bring about greater accountability.
We're going to try to squeeze in one more call before the break in a couple of minutes. Mark from Orlando, Florida. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I just wonder if the Attorney General knows about this situation or pattern of things. I rented a car from a local car company, car rental, and the car actually, the registration was expired. And so was the inspection, or maybe there was no inspection sticker, actually. I was pulled over for that and fined, and spent months trying to fight that. Had no help from the car rental company here in Massachusetts. Have seen a number of. There was a Globe story written about this pattern at some point, maybe a year ago or so. So anyway, the officer who pulled me over said, this is a pattern for car rental companies. If a car goes out of registration out of state, they will rent it to somebody from a different state who will drive it back to the home state, so they don't have to pay for some kind of expenses to get it fixed while the car is out of
Mark,
state.
what's the question?
Any knowledge of that?
Is it Mike or Mark?
Mark, his name is Mark.
Mark? Yeah.
You said any knowledge of that was Mark's question.
I
Attorney
would
General.
have to look to see. We have a whole division. I always say have to look to see because we have a whole division in a couple of our front-facing divisions that do constituent cases, including our card division, where we have teams, like auto teams, based on all the things that go wrong in purchasing an automobile, used or new, et cetera. So, Mark, if you could just stay on, we'd love to follow up with you specifically about your experience, and we can review
Sure.
if we receive complaints from there and go from there.
Okay,
if that helps.
we'll take your number, Mark, and thank you very much for calling.
Before Marjorie has a question for you, Attorney General, both I and maybe even you made a mistake a couple of minutes ago, primarily me, though. Do you want to make that correction?
Oh, we were talking about the Croft School,
Yeah.
and that it's a for-profit
Yeah,
school.
my apologies.
Which is different, obviously, from the BSO and other institutions that reach out to us. That being said, people can still reach out. We don't know if we can be helpful or not. And then in the context of, I know we asked Matt, who teaches there, to follow up with us. We've had some teachers reach out to our Fair Labor Division, who handles wage and hour enforcement. So please reach out and we can see what we can do. But
Thanks
we
for the
can't promise it, but it
clarification.
is for profit.
We appreciate that.
So, Attorney General, the United States Supreme Court, any day now, second now, could be making a decision involving mail-in ballots for the election
Yeah, maybe
coming
Thursday,
up.
we'll see.
In the fall in November. So, is Massachusetts ready, depending on what the Supreme Court does, if they change the dates on which you have to send them by, or they otherwise restrict mail-in ballots?
We're ready. We're getting ready. Actually, the Secretary, Galvin, and his team and I have all been in touch. I'm actually putting out a Know Your Rights guidance probably sometime next month. We'll wait to get the decision from the Supreme Court, and we'll go from there. But we're preparing now and having conversations now. But we hope the Supreme Court gets this one right because the headaches it would cause are significant.
So speaking of, are you involved? You are one of the AGs involved in this thing about the Fed's capping student loan stuff. Are you?
Which?
This July 1st, aren't they capping student loan amounts, or they're
Graduate
not?
school or something like that?
They're not. Oh, yeah. You're okay. I'll clarify it in the next couple of minutes because I thought you'd know.
We have a lot of student loan cases, don't get me wrong, against the federal administration.
Jamie, could you
to
put that
protect
up for me if you don't mind? This I thought there was something July 1st. ADUs.
Graduate student loans.
ADUs.
ADUs, granny flats as they're called.
Yeah.
A lot of text today, and the legislature actually did a statewide mandate around zoning,
Yep.
and the questions are around within that, what are local governments allowed to do? Here's the first of many, anonymous. Some towns are adding cumbersome requirements for ADUs, some of which go directly against what the law says. For example, some towns such as Haverhill are requiring that an ADU have all separate utilities, even though law says they can't ask for separate utilities. How do you challenge such a town when you're a little nobody? Well, that's
You call
I didn't-
us, whoever that was. First of all, I hope they don't refer to themselves as a little
Well,
nobody.
they did, unfortunately.
Okay,
but
who
good.
is this? Tell them you're not a nobody. You're
Okay,
not a
thank
nobody.
you. I knew
That's
you'd say
right.
that,
I feel like
but
Jesse
good.
Jackson.
You are somebody.
I am somebody.
That's right.
Yes, I am somebody. May he rest in peace and power. This is why you have us. So we are tasked with enforcing that new expansion of ADU laws across the Commonwealth. I was actually just in Pembroke visiting with a family, a mom and her daughter. Actually, it's the daughter, her and her husband. Their mother lives downstairs, but it's an ADU that was designed to help her age in place, right? It was beautiful to be there with this family to talk about the power of our ADU and how you can design it in different ways that will serve our elders. And of course, others as well. Let's be clear. That's why I don't like granny, whatever they
Flats,
refer to, flats.
ADUs.
That being said, so call our office because we are seeing that in various towns. There may be some misinformation or lack of knowledge on how these ADUs should be moving forward, mostly as of right. And so our municipal law unit, our housing affordability unit, is providing technical assistance on a regular basis. So to the extent people are hitting barriers, whether it's individuals, developers, others, don't hesitate to reach out
There
to our
are
office.
limits on what cities and towns can do.
Absolutely,
Okay,
and usually
fine.
in the context of like parking. But that being said, most of it's as of right.
Marjorie was right. This is a cap on graduate student loans that goes into effect on July 1st. And our understanding is you're one of the plaintiffs? You're not? Or no?
So,
Well, if it doesn't ring a bell, we'll
That's okay.
No,
pass
but-
it till next time. It's fine.
oh, maybe
know-
I'll have it at the end.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Susan from Puerto Rico. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, thank you.
From
Hi.
Puerto Rico?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Well,
Big in Puerto Rico.
yeah, this is
One of my roommates in college was from Puerto Rico. This is so
Yeah.
great. Hi, Susan.
well, I'm a gringa. No, I'm from Milton, but my husband and I came up with a great idea, which I'm not sure if it's such a great idea, of buying 7 acres of property in the mountains. And
Did you just refer to yourself as a gringo?
gringa?
Gringa. Yep.
Female.
Okay.
So we live in Milton, but we're in Puerto Rico renovating a house in the mountains. So, yeah, it's beautiful here, though. It's absolutely stunning.
Susan, you don't
It's
sound that
stunning.
excited
I mean,
about this idea.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, now that we bought the 8 acres, the house
You should see
has
the
been
faces
one-
of the people in the library right now who are like, we'd love to be in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So, Susan, it sounds like you and the Attorney General should have coffee after the show. But during the show, what's your question for her?
Exactly.
What's your question?
Well, so yes, so I guess I'm a retired now nurse. And I know it was just brought up, but I really want to emphasize. I can't emphasize enough. Well, 2 things. I grew up in Milton. Okay, Carney was a great hospital. I worked there in the 80s. It was a good hospital. I worked there in 2021 until the final day.
Oh.
I can't tell you the disaster. And I was older. I worked as a nurse case manager. If it wasn't for the M&A, I would have been fired 5,000 times over again
Mass
because it was
Nurses
constantly, and it was
Association. Yeah.
Stewart. Management and administration. It was all about getting the patients out. The care was horrible. And I really hope and I pray that Ralph DeLatorre, and I'm not a vengeful person, but what I saw, and my husband kept saying, why are you going back there? I'm like, because I feel like I need to go back there. The patients were poor. It was awful. And the way Stewart treated them, it was, I could just go on. I'm so upset with Stewart. They have to be held accountable for what they did. So a hospital was started by a poor Irishman in 1863, and how it ended, I was like the Chicken Little running around that day. People were stealing computers, stealing everything, papers on the floor. It was awful. It was awful.
We
Even
got
the
it.
plaque of. Anyway, I could go on. Please hold them accountable.
Susan, we really appreciate your calling.
Thank you.
Attorney General.
You know,
Wait, well, tell- let the
And
attorney-
I would just say I don't disagree, right? I inherited the Stewart case and issue, and got into the weeds of it, and including looking at ways in which money was taken out of these systems in order to not benefit the patients. The Carney was our hospital. When we lived in Mattapan, that was our emergency room. That's where we brought our kids. That's where we went. And to watch it close so quickly, so abruptly, to take away services from folks who need it the most, to take away jobs, was disheartening and heartbreaking, to say the least. And so we're doing what we can. I think the legislature, everyone has a role, but I think also the legislature's looked at where the tools are limited to hold them accountable transaction by transaction, so that you don't get to a place where after several transactions that you get to this final result of closure.
You know, we should point out that one of the things that was so enraging to people when we found out about this was that the guy, De La Torre, the guy that ran these whole things, I think it was one 90-foot boat and one 160-foot boat. Then he's over at Versailles watching his wife in some dressage exercise. I know you can't go into detail about this case, but I would assume that in general, cases like this where you are fighting someone with very deep pockets to hire a lot of lawyers, that's one of the reasons this is taking so long?
That's true for many cases.
Yeah.
And why I always acknowledge and give gratitude to my team of lawyers and non-lawyers, that they work hard. Most of them could go somewhere else and make a lot more money than the Commonwealth could ever pay them. And I don't say that to suggest they're not making a good salary, but at the end of the day, it's not comparable to even some other state agencies, and certainly not comparable to the private sector. They do these jobs because they care deeply about the rule of law. They care deeply about enforcing it in Massachusetts, and they care deeply about protecting constituents, and they care deeply about service and accountability. But what I love about Massachusetts is we are the greatest state in the country to live and work, and if you forgot that, well, just look at yourself in the mirror later on and remind yourself of that. We are the greatest state to live and work in, and we are the best public law firm in the country. And it's an honor and privilege to lead this law firm as Attorney General, and to work with an incredible group of folks, of close to 700 folks across 4 different offices, doing remarkable work, sometimes against resources that are stacked against us, but fighting the good fight in order to hold folks accountable.
Speaking of the good fight, can I just for a second follow up on that? Is you filed, we read in the 50, 60 lawsuits against Trump, and the CNN just put out, I think yesterday, the part of the judges' rulings, judges from Trump nominated to Democratic nominated. Let me just read a few. This is from Massachusetts. The president's palpable misunderstanding that the government simply cannot seek retribution for speech he disdains poses a great threat to freedom of speech. West Texas, it's Texas. The case has its genesis in the ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children. Yesterday out of Minnesota, the Tim Walz case, blatantly unlawful what the administration was doing. This is related to going after the principals of these healthcare companies. In all these lawsuits, they break the law, they violate ethical standards, and all they do, in quotes, is they lose the case after the defendant has gone through hell. Do you seek contempt against either the DOJ or any other Trump officials who are involved in the deceit, the blatant unlawfulness, the lying, the palpable misunderstanding? Or do these cases just end and like no harm, no foul? Do you know what I mean?
So I do. So I have to take a step back.
Sure.
So in our federal context, our state work continues, as we mentioned, with ADUs, our assisted living regulations, all the work we're doing on affordability. The other piece, of course, that we are tasked with is federal accountability. We have an administration, and I tell folks, I don't care what your political party is. It doesn't matter to me. We do our jobs regardless of that. And everyone should be concerned about what is happening at the federal level. They are blatantly violating the law to do what? To steal taxpayer resources and Massachusetts dollars and investments. The 59 lawsuits that we have filed as of today are protecting close to $4 billion of the nearly $4.03 billion that they have tried to take from the state unlawfully. That includes SNAP benefits, that includes resources for our libraries, our cultural institutions, radio programs for the public good, transportation, public safety, our fair housing laws. resources to address housing affordability, you name it, the list is long as to what those 59 lawsuits cover. In addition to that, the rule of law itself. As we wait for decisions from the Supreme Court on birthright citizenship, which was the law of the land for 150 years, that's the first thing they challenged. So we are using our tools maximally to fight back, and I'm doing that with other AGs across the country, to protect Massachusetts' reputation, nationally and internationally, our economy, our residents, and our resources. So we're doing our part. The second, though, is civic engagement. I'm always bringing that up because our tools will hit a wall at some point. And then the question becomes, how can we make sure that we're putting people into office that will not go in on day one and say, how can I violate the law? Let's start with birthright citizenship. That will instead use the limited resources that we have in government to help address affordability. If the president were to land at Logan today, I would meet him along with the vice president and do everything in my power to work with them to actually bring down housing costs, to bring down utility costs. Instead, the tariffs conversation, this uncertainty, the chaos is putting housing affordability projects on hold because of that uncertainty. It's making costs go up, including utility costs. It's having the opposite effect of what they say they intend to do, which is address affordability. And so this is where, in an election year and in election years to come, people voting, people being civically engaged matters. And I would just say we will do what we can to protect Massachusetts, and I really do encourage folks who are listening to really look at the harmful effect this administration is causing. And I don't care what type of business you run, if you had that level of uncertainty and chaos, good luck trying to run an effective business that delivers to real people and is sustained over time. That's what we're getting, is uncertainty that is affecting the results here in Massachusetts, and we're fighting against that in order to protect our economy and to protect our residents.
Well, but the question was, do you ever seek contempt against the people who have chosen to misrepresent facts, lie to the court, violate ethical standards, or no?
Well, right now we have, in some cases, we have gone back to court for motions to enforce to push the envelope on getting them to comply with our legal orders. Judges have stepped up too to say, you're not listening to me, you're not following my order and exercising their authority. And I would say each of us maximizing our authority maximally could have, we are having an effect in reining in this administration. And I'll mention offshore wind. That industry, which is critical right now in Massachusetts, would have went under without our lawsuit, without our partnership with the private sector, the administration, and many others. They have just decided, the Trump administration, not to appeal our victory in that case. That's a game changer for Massachusetts, for our climate goals, for jobs, you name it. So judges are helping, we're maximizing our tools, all of us working together in this moment in time. It is having an effect to protect billions of dollars in industries here. I just don't know that it's getting the level of attention that people can feel and see as they're going about their day-to-day lives and feeling maybe a sense of despair and hopelessness. It's like, please, do not stay in that space, because at a minimum, you have an attorney general that's fighting for you and fighting for our state every single day.
Michael in New Bedford, you're on with the Attorney General. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Hi, I'm
well.
calling this morning.
Yeah. We
I'm
noticed.
calling. My name is Michael, and I'm a fourth grade school teacher in New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Great.
Now, in the summers, I work as a lifeguard to make ends meet. And now I'm going to bring a situation to you that's been presented to me as of yesterday. Last week, I rescued a man at my beach that I work at, Horseneck Beach. He was stuck in a rip current. And before that happened, I had whistled him to get him out, and immediately I saw he was struggling, so I went in the water to rescue him, and I did as fast as I could. Now, yesterday, I received a notice that they're pressing charges for negligence. Now, I don't think they have anything against me, but I don't know the negligence laws well, and I just want to know if you're familiar with these laws, and I don't think there's anything to prosecute me. But I'm driving by Boston, and I figured I'd call and see if you have anything for me to help me out with my situation.
Thank
Michael,
you.
let's hear
Thank
what
you,
the
Michael,
AG
for calling. You
Thank
should
you.
stay on, because
Don't go away.
we would need to know more details. And you say negligence. We obviously also work with our local district attorneys who have jurisdiction in their districts. So, Michael, if you could stay on, we will follow up with you and get more details.
That's a state beach. Don't they have insurance for their lifeguards?
we don't know enough.
Yeah.
But I appreciate Michael calling in.
You know, this is always hard. Last month we broached with you, your brother was in the middle of a trial on numerous rape and rape-related charges. Since we saw you last, he was convicted on 21
Yes.
of 22 charges. What's that like for you? I mean, what's that like for you?
I said this initially, that I give significant acknowledgement to the courage of those who came forward in this case. I pray for my brother all the time, and I will continue to pray for my brother. That has and will never change. And if anything, it's an opportunity for me to go deeper in my faith, which I talk about all the time, but I don't think that people really get how deep it runs. I am so deeply faithful that anything that comes at me, I know that I'm protected. I know that I'm delivered. I know that I am covered by a God I serve, not just the God I serve, by Jesus Christ, and by remaining in my Bible and remaining in my vertical relationship. That has been the game changer of my entire life. And I name that openly, not to discount anyone else's faith tradition, but to name it so that folks know that what sustains me is so much bigger and so much deeper and so much more powerful than anything that this world could ever bring against me. And that is the posture that I will remain in. I'm a wife and a mom of 2 beautiful boys, and I already feel like in many ways, God has given me 2 boys to break cycles of poverty, criminalization, mediocrity, not just for them, but also for other families in Massachusetts. And I share my story with vulnerability because I think we need more of that. We have young people right now who are struggling, and our culture would suggest they only talk about the beautiful parts of their story and attach shame or anything else to other parts of their story that people don't like. Well, I would say, don't do that. Your full story, all pieces of it, including the parts that you had no control over, is your superpower, is your ability to actually maybe help other people with your testimony, and hopefully not to forget that you have the opportunity to use it for good for other people, and I think that's a blessing.
You know, as I've said to you many times when we've talked about your faith, I don't have it, and I wish I did. And
Well, maybe by the end of our encounters, you will.
No, I really
You know, you're welcome to come
admire
to
it.
church with me at any time.
But, and maybe this is naive because I don't have it, despite what you said, and I believe every word from the first day we met you
Yeah.
many, many, many years ago. You talked to us privately about your faith and publicly about your faith. It's got to be incredibly hard. You're a human, too, who has to do her work and live her life. And how hard is this time
Absolutely.
been for you?
I'm a human, and I don't shy away from, yes, this is hard. I view this as a season of my life where it's not just the issues around my brother, the auditor's issues and some of the vitriol related to that, the media coverage of some of this, and some of the articles and columns by certain folks who would then bring in my whole family and suggest they know me when they don't. All of this is hard, and then trying to do this in a public way while having children and a wife, and I get that, but I take all the trials and tribulations, and I give it right back to God, who tells me to count it all as joy, and that nothing compares to the glory. And so that's what I stand in, and I continue to go more and more in my word that has proof points of what happens when you take all this hardship, all of this trouble, all this trial and tribulation, which the word says we should welcome it because the world is it. That if I take it and put it right back into his hands, he will handle it, and I'm allowed to operate in peace and joy. And as you know, Joy is my middle name.
We do.
No one will ever take that away from me.
So you'll keep working on me. Is that the...
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm working on you every single time. I'm praying for you too.
Thank you.
Not in all of my prayer
I can
times.
understand that. We're
But
talking
occasionally I
Andrea,
do feel called to pray for you, Jen.
Andrea Joy Campbell, who's the AG.
Audrey.
We have another 5 minutes with her.
Allison and Waylon, thank you for calling.
Hello, Allison.
Hi, Allison.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. Long-time listener, first time getting through, so happy to do so.
Thanks a lot.
I was calling because this is about the Andris Nelson and the board issue.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's been a lot of sturm and drang over the boards not being able to, or not responding as to why Andris Nelson's is departing. I just wanted to say that, I'm a board member in a mid-sized nonprofit. We've had a situation where a CEO, in our case, had to depart. And we were basically gagged as far as the reason. It's like any corporation, nonprofit or for-profit. It's legally inadvisable to say why someone was let go unless that person has broken a law.
So is there a question?
We
Allison, is there a question for the AG in this, or you're just sharing?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sharing, but the question is, am I right? That there are restrictions on boards or legal advisability for sharing. Should they be sharing what Andris Nelson's the reason was for his departure?
So, Allison, I'm going to have you stay on so we can follow up. Every board is different. It's not only certain laws that may be applicable, it also may be the board of director documents themselves that govern the organization. But if you can stay on, we will follow up with you and go from there.
Allison, don't go away. We'll get your contact info and we'll give it to the
And we will
AG's
follow
office.
up.
Allison, thank you much.
Here's a good one, bringing up the old tariff stuff. This texter said, I paid a $150 tariff fee when I ordered my daughter's wedding dress last fall. Am I entitled to a tariff refund? I haven't picked up the dress yet.
I'm not entirely sure about that. I mean, possibly, I don't know, but I'm looking at the and we can follow up with this person, but I just want folks to know the impact of that chaos and uncertainty, including around tariffs, which of course there were lawsuits and successful lawsuits on this too. And I think there is a conversation about how you get the money back to people. But that being said, the impact of this chaos and uncertainty, one day it's this, the next day it's this, the next day it's this. And the disruption it causes our economy, the disruption it causes projects in housing, job creation, et cetera, as something that everyone should be concerned about. And we can only pick and choose which lawsuits we are able to file. We want to make sure the law is, of course, on our side, but most importantly, that there's a Massachusetts interest at stake that's worth fighting for. And we have found several instances where, yes,
Can we do a quick?
back.
Oh, you
The anonymous texter?
about immigration?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to ask the Attorney General what advice she has for immigrants who are married to U.S. citizens and applying for green cards. Specifically, does she recommend they seek legal advice or accompaniment by an attorney at the interview? And this is because of changes from Trump on the green cards.
Yep. So we've put out a lot of guidance, and we continue to push the envelope on what we can put out. Even on our website, we have a whole page related to all things immigration, including know your rights, et cetera. We have to be careful because I am not allowed statutorily to give legal advice. That being said, if this person wants to follow up, we have created a whole network of lawyers and volunteer lawyers who have made themselves available to help folks in instances like this, and also to help folks who may be unlawfully detained, which we know has happened in Massachusetts. So if this person wants to stay on, and because if our information on our website does not answer enough based on the specificity.
What is your website again?
It's www.mass.gov/AGO.
Okay.
We only have 30 seconds left. This question's from Marjorie, but she's too shy to ask it. She is obsessed with the reflecting pool and the algae and the peeling paint. And she wants to, in Washington,
That's
she wants to
right.
know,
I'm sorry, what?
can you sue
algae.
Can you sue
The
the
algae.
algae or the peeling paint on behalf of a citizen
I'm
and
very concerned.
taxpayer of Massachusetts? Can you refer that to somebody or take her contact info
You
or
guys
something?
have a lot of contact. We'll let you refer that to who you want to refer
We're referring
that
it to you, actually.
And my team members are like, yeah. Yes, but I will just say thank you as always for having me.
Thank
and
you.
to those who are listening, enjoy the summer, right? Take some time to find your joy. It's an honor and privilege to be your Attorney
We really
General.
appreciate you being here.